Howdy everybody, it is Wednesday, October the 28th. Beautiful fall day out here at the farm. I happen to have 3 days in a row off, so in the next 3 days I'm going to put together a video of some of the things I've got to do around the farm. Some of them are mundane chores, some of them is getting ready for next year's little bit of farming. What's this thing, you ask? Well, it is a chunk of 3/4 inch PVC attached to a piece of no-hub coupling, all plumbing supply fittings, with a 2-inch to 3/4 PVC bushing down inside of there. And what I do with this is what's our first thing to do today. Yeah, so stay tuned. We'll get you a little video here on some of the things that I got going on here at the farm in the next couple of days. Got a problem right up there with a light. It's on the pole in the backyard, and the other night we had some commotion going on around here, so I went to turn on the light. Nothing happened. So that bulb's probably burned out up there and we'll need to change it. The first thing I'm going to do with that light is test it to see if it actually works or not. If it's just come loose, I can just turn it back in. If I can make contact. And by turning it righty-tighty, I can tell the bulb is in tight and the light didn't come on, so the bulb's burned out. So turning it to the left, we'll unscrew it. Almost. Yep. Caught it, and it didn't break. Right there is where the bulb ended up landing. Even though it's got a cobweb on it, it's still in one piece. They say you can't buy incandescent light bulbs anymore. Well, you can if you know who to talk to and where to go to get them. Me, I'm running some high-powered ones, 150 watters that I just bought. So, yeah. And I bought them in 2020. So, yeah, incandescents are still available. Because this rubber is somewhat flexible on here on this no-hub coupling, you do need to be careful because after a while these will get hard. This one still flexes because I keep it inside out of the sun. What the idea is to push the light bulb in far enough to not crush the glass, but yet to have this thing flare out enough to hold it so that you can run it up the pole and screw it in. And now to put the new bulb in that socket up there. This is always the tricky part. What I mean by the tricky part is you can get the base of the light bulb in that big opening where the bulb screw is in, but you can't always get it right in the socket. And sometimes, like now when I'm turning it, you don't know if you're getting it in the right spot or not, and you don't know unless the light comes on. The light's not coming on, and the bulb's not in there. Oh yeah, it is. The bulb is in there. So maybe it just needs to be tightened. No, it's in there tight. Huh. And I know the light switch is on, so maybe we need to go check something else out. And we'll flip on the old switch and see what happens. Well, looky there, that new light bulb's come on. What do you want to bet? The old bulb was good, it's just the switch was bad. That's kind of what I'm thinking right now. I'll test out the old light bulb to see if it's still any good, and if it is, I'll hang on to it and reuse it back out here in the deal, but I heard a little bit of a rattle, so I don't think it survived its fall very well. I think what a lot of that problem is with the light, this go-around in particular, was the switch. That old round porcelain or Bakelite switch doesn't get used very often, so the contacts get a little gummy. So when I flipped it on the other night to see what was going on around the farm, first time I've done that in months to flip this light on, the contacts evidently didn't make their electrical connection, so the light didn't come on. Well, me being who I am, assumed the light bulb had burned out again because I change them at least once a year. Well, it wasn't the case this time. It was just the dirty contacts in the switch. So we'll flip it on and off a few times. Now that the bulb's warmed up a little bit, won't blow out the filament in the light bulb, and yeah, it'll clean it up, be good to go for a while yet. The next thing we're going to cover is that big willow tree out in the front yard. It got topped about 20 years ago, so pardon the finger, it got topped down to about there. 20 years ago, it was up about here, where it is now. So yeah, we'd have been way up here at the top of the screen or above it if that thing hadn't been topped 20 years ago. The reason why the willow tree is up for discussion today is because of something that I noticed while I was editing the last video that we did here at Nelson Creek Farms, but I was also asked by Brian, who lives in Twin Falls, one of our channel subscribers, as to how big the old willow tree is. Well, as you can see, I'm standing in front of it. It's pretty good size. But just to get an idea of how big around the tree is, I've got a measuring wheel, and we're going to measure this sucker. Yeah. Okay, we're going to reset this to 0. There we go. And now we're going to go measure. I'm going to start right here where this crease is in the willow tree, because that's a good starting place for this wheel to sit into. And we're at 0, so here we go. Be right back. Ha 17 feet 3 inches. Yeah, that's a big tree. But there you are, Brian. That sucker is 17 feet 3 inches around. Right there, yeah. That's a big old tree. In a way, I'm kind of bummed to see fall happen. We don't have a lot of pretty colors here like they do in some states. A lot of the trees still have the leaves on them, but you can tell they have been frosted. They are dry and just kind of nasty looking. The only plants that seem to be doing still fairly well here on the farm are these Arctic willows that are planted here around the creek where the driveway goes over the top of it. yeah, their leaves are still fairly flexible and moist feeling. So one of the things I'm kind of bummed out about this year, and I probably should have done a little something about it, is we have lost 9 really nice looking perch. That's always something that happens every year here at the farm when the water dries up from the creek and the water subs out of the pond. So nothing new. Unfortunately, that's a fact of life on any farm, is life and death. A farm, whether you're growing livestock or just crops, is a life cycle itself, just like with those fish. Born in the spring and die off in the fall. Just a fact of life and nature's way of taking care of things. So I imagine that will become food for the stray cats here on the farm, and or some of the hawks and other birds that are hanging out yet around the place. On a little different note, as I'm down here in the pond coming back up, I noticed a huge amount of erosion down through here where the driveway is down into the pond here, so we can clean it out. Now, yeah, that nice big deep trench right there. Erosion here in this entranceway down into the pond wasn't unexpected, but I am going to have to get some road-based gravel or something to dump in here on this after I get it cleaned out, filled in, and leveled a little bit, just to keep that from washing again. The whole idea behind this driveway down into there is so that I could get a tractor down in there, or a skid steer loader or other type of machine, and clean out the muck in the bottom of the pond every other year or so. All of the stuff we're cleaning out of the bottom of the pond is going to go into be making landscaping berms around the farm, so everything will have its use. Another little project that I have to do yet is pull up all that gated pipe, that PVC pipe. There's a half a finger that runs that entire length. So, and yeah, I got to get this stuff out of here, load the pipe onto that trailer, and then I can have all of this ground plowed and disked down with a real heavy disc, and then leveled. Whether or not I get the gated pipe pulled up in the next couple of days or not, still a little bit up in the air, but while the weather is nice, I'll be putting up Christmas lights on the house and around the fence and whatnot. So we're going to get that done while there's no wind blowing. Howdy everybody, and welcome to Thursday the 29th of October. Beautiful day out today, and we got a little bit more rearranging of some of the farm tractors to do today in preparation for this upcoming winter. So after 3 hours worth of sleep yesterday and me being dog tired and a good night's sleep last night, we're going to get on it today and make some of this stuff happen around the farm today. Well, as you can see, the farm's old farm awl is still sitting outside along with the John Deere 50. And that is going to be our next little project to do today. What needs to be done today is the little Ford tractor, Stinky, needs to come out of this slot. And the big Super M sitting in behind it needs to come out so we can put the John Deere 50 back in there. The 50 doesn't run right at the minute, so that's a good place for it to go and hide. One of the reasons why I need to move this tractor is not only because the John Deere 50 doesn't run and needs to go back in here. This tractor is a little bit too tall to go in the garage or in the barn without removing the exhaust pipe. Yeah, as you can see, I can't quite reach the top of it. I'm about a foot short. So that gives you an idea how big the Farmall Super M is. The Super M also needs a little bit of carburetor and fuel line work. It's got a leak somewhere, I'm not entirely sure where, but I do know it needs a new shutoff valve on the sediment bulb that's right underneath the fuel tank. You shut that off and it starts leaking fuel all over. You'll leave it on and the carburetor or the fuel line, I'm not sure which yet, starts leaking. So yeah, that tractor needs a little bit of work before we put her back into use next year. I already have the jack on the tongue of the grain drill down as far as it'll go, so hopefully the drawbar of the assembly of the John Deere 50, when I push it in here, will back right over the top of that and be able to come in far enough that I can squeeze the Super M in next to it. Well, there's all the kids put away for winter. The John Deere 50's backed in front of the grain drill. The Super M is up next to it, side by side, and over here is Stinky with its snow blade mounted, ready to go for the winter. Even though the Super M here behind me has engine issues that we hope to address before too long, one of the very first things we're going to do for it, and hopefully by next summer, is we will have a 3-point hitch mounted to it. Now, I know a lot of original people are going to go, oh my gosh, they didn't have those. They didn't even have the 2-point fast hitch that International made. You have to get a newer tractor for that. Yeah, I agree, that is the case. However, everything that we're going to keep on this farm has to be usable, and it has to work with what we need it to do. This tractor has a hydraulic system that works, so we're going to put the 3-point hitch on it so that we can use it in case Stinky fails, or we end up having to tear apart the transmission and final drive of the D14 Alice Chalmers tractor, and that ends up being more work than what we're thinking it's going to be right now. So far, touch wood, we think the D14 is going to be a fairly simple bearing or gear fix in the right rear drop axle, but we don't know about the transmission as yet. So stay tuned, make sure you subscribe right down there, click on that little red thing, subscribe on it, is you're going to have to be a subscribed member to the YouTube channel to see any updates on the D14 Alice Chalmers and what we're doing with it until it makes its debut here on the farm next year. And with that, the gas is off and she is shut down and put away for the winter. That's the little Farmall H back into the garage. Now the reason why I shut off the Farmall H that way is I closed the fuel valve on the sediment bulb underneath the fuel tank. And with the engine running, that drains all the gasoline down the fuel line and out of the carburetor and into the engine. So for the winter, the carburetor is going to sit there dry, and I hopefully, knock on wood, won't have any issues with the varnish and goo that builds up with this ethanol blended gas. So that's why we do that with a lot of the old tractors. By next summer, I hope to have all this area here in front of Stinky and its bay cleaned out. For the simple reason, we're going to try to get a hay baler next year, and the hay baler will go in here with Stinky if they'll both fit in here side by side. Come on, guys. Well, I decided to let the two dogs out today. Skylar's Labrador Ranger, and then that little fuzzy brown thing behind it is my version of Scratch from Pixar. It's Mother's little Pomeranian Chihuahua mix wannabe, whatever it is. Yeah, they're going to be cooped up long enough so they can come out here and run around, do a little snooping before they get shut up in the house for the winter. One thing you may have noticed if you were here for any of our plow days is this bollard assembly with the old iron implement wheel on it. That was intended to straddle or make an L-shaped bracket. There was a pair of them out here on either side of the driveway leading out in the field, and the intent was to protect the plastic pipe. Well, when I put it together, I was in such a hurry for the plow day that we had. I got the cross piece of metal that's down here, actually runs under the pipe over to the other leg. So I'm either going to have to pull the pipe apart to get this out or cut that strap. And right now I'm leaning towards cutting the strap. In the long run, it was just easier to pull it apart. Yeah, so that's what I did. Traditionally, those bollards are usually made out of steel. You've all have seen them around, like drive-through windows and that sort of thing. They're designed to keep your car from hitting the building. Well, in this case, they would be designed to keep farm equipment and whatever from hitting that pipe where it drops down and goes under the driveway. There's a little bit of a debate going on right now whether or not we want to use some more split cedar rail fencing to continue on with what we had right there, or if we want to buy some steel tubing or pipe, heavy wall pipe, and build some out of steel. So, but you know, that's a project for next year. So for right now, I'm going to unload this thing back here and store it for the winter, and that'll probably be it for today. Well, that's going to wrap up this week's video. Skylar and I just got back from a trip to Tractor's Grill in Buell for a good breakfast, and then we swung by the Iron Mound farm of Dale's out towards Hollister and did a little window shopping. Saw a lot of good looking eye candy out there. So we may have something new in the video for you coming up before too long on something we've picked up out that way. Anyway, as always, glad you stopped by to see what's going on here at Nelson Creek Farm. Stay tuned, subscribe, click on all, give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, leave a comment on YouTube. And as always, we'll catch up with you later. You have a wonderful Halloween, and we'll see you back here in November.